Hello everyone, welcome to this session of MADWeb workshop, which is on web measurements. My name is Ananta Soniji and I'm a PhD candidate from Arizona State University. I'll be chairing this session today. And in this session, we have an exciting lineup of amazing talks today. We have 6 talks in total, one of which will be online. It's the second one, but for general instructions to go through this session. For regular talks, the timing for talk is 15 minutes, and then we'll have 3 minutes for Q&A. For work in progress, which are the later 3 talks for this session, the talk time will be 10 minutes and Q&A for 3 minutes. And with that, let's start the session and call our first speaker, Antoine, an assistant professor from Inria, who is going to talk about their work about understanding, targeting, and manipulations via collaborative private data collection. Let's welcome the first speaker.
Thank you for the introduction. So yeah, I'm Antoine Boutet, assistant professor at ITSA Lyon and member of the Inria Private Research Group. So I'm pleased to be here to present this work called STETOSCOPE, which is a collaborative platform for data collection to better understand the new practice on the web. And it's a joint work with Tao and a group of students at my university. So basically, I will present a little bit the platform and a preliminary result of data collection campaign. So personalization is everywhere now on the web. This personalization can be on the content, on how it is displayed. So personalization is useful for user to have its own experience, to have content that they are likely to be interested in, to save time and so on. It's also useful for application provider to increase user engagement and generate additional revenue. However, these mechanisms that actually control this personalization remain unclear. Indeed, it can be viewed as a black box, and we have absolutely no idea on how, what is the algorithm inside this black box, which kind of personal information is used to control this black box. And due to its user-centric nature, it's difficult to know if the output, the information we receive, is legitimate or not. And we have seen in the past many cases where there are some unethical practice. Related work have shown the existence of personalization, price personalization. Dark pattern has deployed in a lot of places to manipulate users, to let them accepting the cookies. We have seen in other scandals that other sensitive information from user can be used as a personological characteristic of user to manipulate them during election campaign. And for sure, new practice appear regularly. So collecting and analyzing personalization is a complex task. So the most conventional way to do that is to develop a bot, and with this bot to request the system with specific information and analyze the output of this box. So regarding the topic of this workshop, I guess many of you have already developed. How many people have already developed its own bot or crawler to automatically collect data or analyze behavior of platform? Okay, so many of you. So you know that this way to do has many limitations. You have to develop your bot dedicated for the target, on how to, let's say, interact with the target for the input, on how to analyze the output. Many platforms now implement bot detection and protection mechanisms. So it means that regularly you have to change the strategy to collect the strategy of your bot to still continue to collect information. Sometimes the output is difficult to manipulate because it's generated dynamically with JavaScript. So if you want to collect information from mobile, it's much more harder than in a laptop. So what is possible with browser extension is not possible with mobile. And if you want to instrumentalize mobile, sometimes you have to route the mobile. And this kind of information is known by the platform, so the result can be biased by the fact. And also, if you don't have a consistent profile, user profile attached to your bot, you can have also a biased result. So we face all these limitations, and we decide to change of strategy, and we develop a STETOSCOPE. So the STETOSCOPE, it's a collaborative platform where we ask a user to help us to conduct analysis on unethical practice on the web. And we believe that engaging citizens to study this practice, it's a good way to raise awareness on these questions. So the main point of this platform are to engage a real user willing to help, to focus on a mobile, so to inspect the behavior of mobile application or a web page from the browser of the mobile, to rely on the screenshot, so the information seen by the user. We guide the user to do the job, and we have a generic pipeline which can be used for many data collection campaigns. So more to give an overview of how STETOSCOPE works. So it relies on two main components. The first one is a backend server useful to configure the campaign and to automatically, let's say, analyze the screenshot. And a mobile application. So in this mobile application, the user can have a list of the active data collection campaign and have some information about this campaign. And if it selects a campaign, it is guided to the process. So we have different steps. The first one is to configure the data collection campaign at the backend. Then this information is visible on the mobile application, and if the user click, it is redirected to one page or multiple pages with an overlay which guides the user to do the different tasks, if we have to accept the cookie and so on. And then the final action is to trigger a screenshot, and this screenshot is sent to the backend. And finally, we have some, let's say, functionalities to detect price or other element in the screen, and some tools to plot the result. So basically, here we start with OCR and some plotting functionality, but we face in this campaign many limitations, and we decide to use VLM to do the job. And with the screenshot, we add a few metadata, the model of the device of the user, optionally the location of the user, and the UID. Okay, and this generic pipeline can be useful to conduct different kind of analysis. We can analyze if there are presence or not of price discrimination. So basically here we redirect all the users to an item, and we can check if the price of this item is consistent or not over all the population. We can also analyze different other kind of discrimination. Search discrimination. Here, the goal is to analyze is for the same search, the answer provided by the platform are different or not. Gender discrimination, if, for instance, for the salary, if there are some difference on the platform. We can analyze also ad targeting. So basically here, we redirect the user to one web page with a widget where we have an advertisement. Then we redirect the user to a search engine with different keywords. And finally, we redirect the user to the first web page to see how the widget have evolved according to the intermediate behavior. So it's to evaluate if there are some sharing between different parties. We can analyze the impact of the platform, if the price is similar in the mobile application or in the browser, for instance. We can evaluate the reliability of incentive message, like discount, counter, and so on. Evaluate dark pattern, information bubble, phishing, as we have seen in the keynote. Okay, so we conduct a preliminary result, a preliminary campaign. For that, we recruit a group of students in my department at ITSA, and regularly we conduct some let's say campaign, some measurement from November to January. We target different platforms, so e-commerce platform, AliExpress, Amazon, Boulanger, Cdiscount, Conforama, Fnac, and Temu. Reservation service, Booking.com, a bus operator, Flixbus, on an employment website, Indeed. And to analyze the screenshot, we use VLM. Okay, here, so I present not all the results, but a few of them. So we analyze some fluctuation in the price or price discrimination only on AliExpress platform. So for that, we redirect all the user to an item which was headphones, and we analyze the price of this item. And we show that during all the period and for all the population, the price can vary a lot from one user to another. So is the distribution of the observed price for this item. So it can vary from 2.5 euros to more than 10 euros. And here we plot the price observed by each user. So each color represents a user, and we can see that at the same moment, the price can be different over all the population. We didn't see any correlation with the model of the device of the user. Here we show also a search discrimination. So we redirect the user to a search on the e-commerce platform, and we analyze the average price of the first 3 items in the search. And we show that this average price can vary a lot over the population. Here it is a distribution that we observe. So the average price of the item can go to less to 200 euros to more than 1,400 euros. No correlation with the mobile model of the user device, because in the state of the art, we have already observed that people equipped with Apple have a higher price than Android. So it was an observation in the state of the art. Okay, and we show also evidence of fake discount. So we conduct some measurement during Black Friday and Christmas and after this period. And we analyze the discount display for the item. So during Black Friday, we observe this practice on Temu. So basically, we have this item with a price almost at 500 euros with a 60% of discount display during Black Friday, and just after, this price is much lower without any discount. And during Christmas and after Christmas, it's the same. For instance, this TV, it's 900 euros with a discount. Before Christmas and after, it's the same price without discount. And here, the same. This item is observed with 40% of discount just before Christmas, but after the price is the same without the discount. So it's just a few results. You can have other results in the paper. So to conclude this talk, we present STETOSCOPE, so it's a collaborative data collection platform to observe new practice on the web. We conduct some preliminary campaign on gather some results, and we are still working on this platform. So we integrate locally a VLM for the data analysis. We would like to better understand how the black box works. We would like to ask the user also to extract the personal information maintained by the platform, to share with us, to see, to better understand, yes, the personalization, how the personalization leverage the information of the platform, or if the platform leverage other source of information. And we are deploying a new version of STETOSCOPE to allow any researcher to conduct a new collection campaign. So if you are interested, don't hesitate. It will be ready soon. And the Digital Service Act, it's a new regulation which is supposed to regulate this practice, and we would like to cross-analyze, to compare our observation against what is stated in this regulation. Okay, thanks.
If you have any questions, please line up to the mics here.
Question. So maybe the part I missed, are you asking user to set up fake profile, or actually use the user's real profile?
Real profile.
So how do you get IRB approval to? I'm wondering about the privacy implication of this. You have gender. You have understood the gender of your user. The IRB would ask, you collect private information of your study participants and so on. Yeah.
We don't collect the profile. We just collect the screenshot of the web page.
But when you study discrimination, how do you know this person is declared female versus male?
We ask all the men to go to a web page and all the women to go to another web page. And we, for instance, in the study on the employment website, so we ask all the women to go to a website where in the URL the sex is mentioned, woman, and the same for the men, where we just change the attribute and we analyze if the salary have a difference or not for the same position. And so the screenshot can include different personal information. If at some point you have notification at the top, for instance, but we want to blur this. All the part of the picture is not important for analysis will be blurred in the final version.
Got it. So for your future work, when you try to collect additional information about the user itself, it's also aggregated or anonymized in some way.
You mean all the metadata?
Yeah, from the user.
Well, metadata is very short because it's only the device. Because
it's not personal.
No, it's not personal. The device, the model of the device can be viewed as a personal information, but the device, the location, but it's optional if the user wants or not to share this information. UID. And that's all. So it's a very small amount of information.
One more question.
Yeah, you were just mentioning the metadata that you collected and considered. Did you also consider IP addresses? Because sometimes, like I've heard that also in different countries you get different prices or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. But as we ask the user, we can also we didn't check that, but. It depending on after how you conduct your campaign. At some point, I buy some pizza in one room with all the students. We go over all the data collection, and we do the job. So after. You can check if the user is located in one country or not to avoid some bias result. Yes, for sure.
Let's thank the speaker once again. And for the next talk, which is going to be online, the speaker will be joining us on Zoom. So if you have any questions, you can ask to the speaker. But let's welcome Shaoqi Jiang, who will be speaking about characterizing QUIC usage and privacy issues in the wild.
Good morning, dear audiences. My name is Shaoqi from Concordia University. And the presentation I'm going to give is about a closer look at QUIC traffic, characterizing the QUIC usage and privacy issues in the wild. So before we start our project, we come up with the idea that what is actually inside QUIC. As we know, that HTTP3 runs over QUIC rather than TCP and TLS. And the classic TLS interception tools, such as mind-middle proxy and the burp suite, were built around the TCP-based TLS connection. And these interception proxies have incomplete QUIC support, which is the missing part of QUIC traffic analysis. So even so, we cannot say that nothing is actually inside QUIC. So we consider that apps may also send privacy-related data over QUIC. And we are going to measure the personal identifiable information leakage inside the QUIC traffic. So for this project, we are going to solve the following three questions. The first question is that how prevalent is HTTP3 in the popular Android apps? And who are the main HTTP3 or destination operators? And the last question is that do privacy-related data leaks differ between the HTTP3 and HTTPS? To achieve our goal, we did three things. The first thing is that we designed our own mind-middle proxy with name of QUIC mind-middle that can handle both the handles the interception of both HTTP3 and HTTP2 and HTTP 1.1 traffic. The proxy is designed for transparent proxying, which will forward traffic to the server of port UDP port 443 and TCP port 443. And while the proxy can log the plain text for the downstream analysis. And after that, we do the measurement. We automatically run the Android applications in a large scale and capture the traffic while the application is running. So for each application, we make a two-run design. So in the first run, we have the QUIC enabled, and in the second run, we have the QUIC disabled. So we expect that some traffic originally generated within the QUIC can be fed back into the HTTP TLS traffic. And we also quantify the prevalence and the destination ecosystem. And besides the measurement, we also do the leak analysis. We detect the privacy-related identifiers in the captured traffic. And then we compare the leaks in HTTP3 versus HTTPS. We also documented the edge cases such as the custom encryption in the QUIC and the inconsistent behavior of different QUIC implementations. So then we will introduce the QUIC, our proxy design, the QUIC mind-middle, and how it can intercept the HTTP3 and HTTPS traffic. The core idea of our proxy is same as the core idea of a traditional mind-middle proxy. We first extract the SNI, the server name indication, from the client hello of a QUIC handshake or TLS handshake. Then we generate the server per domain certificate. The prerequisite for this operation is that we need to first install our local CA certificate into our test devices. And then we peel off the client encryption, establish the connection from proxy to the server, and log the decrypted HTTP3 payload. And in this plot, the above part is for HTTP3 and the lower part is for HTTPS. And we can see that in the HTTP3 traffic encryption, we need to deal with additional stream management inside the per QUIC connection. So in the implementation of QUIC, a single QUIC connection can carry many independent streams. Each stream is like a request-response pair. So in order to successfully encrypt the traffic, our proxy must map the client stream and the server stream correctly. But also, within the stream, there are frames, and the frame reordering or the partial reads of the frame can also break the HTTP3 decryption in a correct order. How do we solve this challenge? First, we maintain a per stream state, which is we have for each proxy to client to proxy stream, we have a corresponding proxy to server stream established, so that we have a one-on-one stream mapping. And also, we buffer complete stream payloads before we forward these payloads to the server. These two mechanisms help us to forward the decrypted HTTP3 frames reliably for our later analysis. So with our proxy, we made the following experiment. How do we do it? That we first have a 2-run protocol comparison experiment. For each app, we have 2 runs. In the first run, we allow the traffic forwarding to port 443 on both TCP and UDP. And then we observe the HTTPS and HTTP3 traffic generated by the application. And in the second run, we block the traffic forward to port 443 UDP so that we can block the QUIC traffic. By default, when this block happens, we expect a fallback of HTTP3 traffic back to the HTTPS traffic. From our measurement, we observed 298 unique HTTP3 destination addresses, and among them, 119 domains used by more than 2 apps. Usually, these domains are the shared infras like CDN or advertisement providers. And only 121 applications use the app unique HTTP3 domains, which are the domains that can only get the request from one application. We also found that popular high download apps more often use app unique HTTP3 domains. For example, only the Reddit app send the HTTP3 request to reddit.com. We also applied the who is search for the data we collected, so that we would like to know the owner of these domain names providing the HTTP3 traffic. And we found that Google CCL dominates the ecosystem in our dataset. Other operators, including the major advertisement provider, analytics, and CDN providers. And some destinations are proxy privacy services, which indicate the ownership are obscured. To better understand how these apps initiate the QUIC connection with the server. We implement the static analysis among them. We selected 108 apps for deeper inspection. Among them, 33 apps explicitly enabled QUIC through Coronet QUIC, and some apps relies on web views, which implicitly enable the QUIC connection. We found that many apps mention the QUIC keyword in the networking library, such as OKHTTP and KTOR. But this doesn't mean the guarantee that QUIC is used. Besides these libraries, we also found the Coronet, which is the Chromium network stack, providing the explicit QUIC support. And beside the Coronet, we have the WebView. WebView could also make QUIC enabled, but make it enable it implicitly without the app control toggling. After that, we analyze the privacy-related information collected in our traffic. We found that many privacy-related identifiers appear in both protocols, such as the advertisement IDs and the device serial numbers. And some items appear only over HTTP3 in our measurement, when both QUIC and TCP are enabled. However, when QUIC is disabled, most of the apps often fall back to HTTPS by default. And in our study, we observed that more total leaks over HTTPS could be observed than when QUIC is enabled. So here is our takeaways. If an audit pipeline ignores QUIC, it could miss some sensitive payloads. And protocol shifts can change visibility without changing the app behavior. So we have the following recommendation. Please include the QUIC-capable interception in the privacy study. Or we can just block QUIC to allow the fallback happen. That is, some traffic originally belonging to HTTP3 could be transferred back to HTTPS. Our study also has some limitations. The first is that we focus on Android apps. This may result different on the other platform applications. And some apps deploy the actual protection, such as the certificate pinning, or non-standard QUIC stacks, or custom encryption. And another limitation is that the definition of privacy information. The PII detection, our PII detection is based on a defined set of identifiers. So we cannot say if there's no leakage of other information if we have not detected them yet. In conclusion, we have that QUIC HTTP3 is already common in popular Android apps, and a QUIC-capable proxy, such as our QUIC Mind Middle, makes plain text inspection feasible for research. And privacy-relevant data can appear over HTTP3. So we should not treat it as a blind spot. So over here, if any question, I would like to answer remotely.
Okay, we have the speaker on Zoom. If anyone from the audience have any questions for the speaker.
You mentioned you only measured Android. What would you expect to be different if it's not Android platform?
If it's not Android platform, first because the only device we have is the Android device.
Yeah.
So first we expected that for example, maybe for those Apple devices, we we first need to think about the method to like install the local our local CA certificate into devices. So commonly this can be done in Android, but for Apple devices, this might not be easy. So if we are going to test our other devices, this will be the first thing we need to do. And also for the for Windows devices, we can like install it, but from what we already tested, is that the Chrome, for browsers like Chrome, they do not allow us to do so.
But in terms of observation, so this engineering difficulty in terms of you running experiments, but you're just measuring the server in some sense, right? Would you expect to see a different behavior if you're talking to a browser or talking to Windows or talking to Mac?
Yeah, we haven't thought about it, but this can be a good question for further analysis.
Hi. So, do we know how much of the traffic that you're seeing is from web views or is from ChroNet and so on and so forth, like from the different providers that you mentioned?
Oh yeah, so this one we haven't done because this one is we only do the static analysis, which is like we check what is the component of the app statically, and we check the code to see like what happened, and if any quick enable options within the app decompiled code. So this is the thing we know. But if we want to know like how this can be done, like which component actually trigger the quick connection when the app is running, we need to do actual work like hooking some process to see, or hooking some function to see like which actually got triggered.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, so maybe this can be a further research topic. Yeah.
Okay, with that, let's thank the speaker, everyone. Thank you, Shaoqi, for joining online. And next up, we have Daan, PhD student from University of Leuven, who works a lot on web security and specifically phishing-related research. And today he's going to speak to us about the challenges and opportunities in citizen-driven malicious website datasets. Let's welcome the speaker. In the meanwhile, they are setting up.
All right, thank you. So, phishing. I know what phishing is. You all know what phishing is. My grandmother still doesn't know what phishing is. So, it still remains an issue, right? We got technical solutions. We have amazing papers. There was an amazing paper published here yesterday. Amazing keynote speaker describing new phishing techniques, new solutions for phishing research. I guess some of you are also enrolled in one kind of phishing awareness training, receiving those annoying emails every once and again. So apparently we still do need some phishing solutions, but why? Why is it still an issue? Well, let's take a look back at the examples as shown here before. One of you might notice we got Steam, Coinbase, Netflix, but behind those major brands, we see these brands. Probably almost none of you know what these brands are. These are Belgium brands. We got an ISP provider, an energy provider, and we got a government portal. These are phishing pages we extracted from a Belgium dataset. And why is this an issue? Well, most phishing research is currently done on global datasets. We got well-known datasets like PhishTank, the eCrime Exchange, or OpenFish. Most people doing phishing research use these datasets to conduct their research. But if we take a closer look at, for example, OpenFish, they publish their data where it comes from, we see that almost all the data comes from the USA, selected countries in Europe, but only, for example, small samples from Africa. Only South Africa has presence, none from Australia, none from New Zealand, and you can't see it on the map, but Belgium, the country where I'm from, is also not present in this data set at all. This shows, in my opinion, serious lack in the current data sets we have. It can show that global data sets might work for some fishing research, but not for fishing pages for specific countries. So what did we do in our research? We conducted a study of a local data set conducted in Belgium based on reports made by citizens from our country. We did a manual analysis uncovering some characteristics, challenges, findings from this data set. What can we learn from them? What are the limitations from this data set? And we also used topic modeling as an aid for the analysis. So this regional data set, where does it come from? What does it contain? Well, it's a citizen-driven regional data set conducted by the government. In Belgium, we have the Center for Cybersecurity Belgium, and they have a campaign called Safe on Web. Safe on Web has an email address, suspicious@safeonweb.be, and everybody in Belgium, or even you actually, can forward any suspicious emails to that email address. They conducted a study previously, and they found that almost all Belgians are aware of this email address, showing that Belgians, if they encounter a phishing email or a suspicious email, they will actually forward that mail to the government. 44% of Belgians at some point did so, which yearly around 9 million reports are made. And if you know that Belgium only has 11 million citizens, it's quite a lot. So what do we do with this regional data set? Well, every mail that is received, we do not receive the emails, but for privacy reasons, we only keep the link, so we do not know who reported it for privacy reasons. We extracted the link that was reported as suspicious. We crawled that using our in-house crawler every 50 minutes, and we did so for a year. So to first conduct our manual analysis, we took all reports made on one single day to kind of know what is actually in this data set, to get like a first good grasp of what does this data set contain, what can we learn from it. And we sorted all websites in 4 categories. We got benign websites, malicious websites, specifically also websites with adult content, like erotic content or pornography, and also websites that we could not sort into any category. This is the distribution of these websites. And as you can see, as a first conclusion, most people don't know what phishing is, I guess. So what is actually in this data set? Well, the benign websites make up 56% of our data set, and we mostly see newsletters or marketing emails. For example, Domino's Pizzas or Air France holidays popped up quite frequently. And why could this be? Well, one thing we thought that might people report is that they probably signed up to some service. At one point, they ordered the pizza from Domino's Pizzas, and they forgot to click the sign out of newsletter or receive no promotional emails. And then a couple days later, they got an email from Domino's like, oh, I did not sign up for this. This is suspicious. It's probably phishing. But we suspect they probably did sign up. But for these people, it was a suspicious email. What we also saw were some privacy issues. As you can see here, this is an invoice for family aid. So somebody asked a babysitter or a nanny or some kind of things, and they got an invoice for that. But this invoice is benign. We checked, it's from a benign company. The website was legit, but still they found it suspicious and reported it. Okay, well, they might not have suspected to get an invoice, but the issue with this is they reported it to the government and to our research institution then as well. And there were lots of privacy issues were present there, right? You got the full address, the equivalent of the social security number, their legal names, their bank account information, quite a lot of privacy-sensitive information. So people are not aware that if they report suspicious emails or suspicious links to an institution, they might leak some privacy information to that, which also prohibited us from releasing our data set because of all these privacy-sensitive information. So then these 4% of websites that are actually malicious that got reported, well, we mostly saw these were fake web shops or fraudulent investment advice. So for example, this data set was collected around the US presidential election last year. So we see Elon Musk and Donald Trump come up quite frequently to kind of advertise for the new AI stock. So we also saw people using current recent events in their scam campaigns. I did not put a screenshot for this category, but if you're interested, they are on my laptop. Adult content, we probably suspect these were also malicious websites as well. When we looked at some, we saw highly AI-generated or highly photoshopped images of dating scams. Most of these websites were like the usual hot people in your neighborhood, click here and pay $20 to get in contact. They're probably using erotic content in exchange for money to try and get some money from you. And then the final category, which unfortunately made up 90% of our data set, were websites which we could not sort into any category because they did not reveal any information on their benignness or their maliciousness. Probably a lot of them were cloaking. We used an in-house crawler, which we are aware has some limitations in terms of cloaking, but as our keynote speaker also mentions, it's an arms race, right? You can never completely fix cloaking, probably. We saw a lot of CAPTCHAs, which we could not bypass, so we're not sure, are these benign websites or are they malicious websites? We couldn't see the content, so we couldn't really check. Also, a lot of empty websites, which just returned a blank page. Maybe these campaigns got already deactivated, but we have no real way of knowing for sure if they were benign or malicious at some point. All right, so this gave us a first idea of what was in our data set, but we kind of wanted to generalize that. We made a manual analysis of one day, but we kind of wanted to see how does this evolve over time. And because manual analysis is not scalable, we turned to AI, as we all do in these times, but not LLMs, we turned to topic modeling. So maybe a brief introduction about topic modeling. It's an unsupervised ML technique that tries to cluster different pages or different reports in our case together based on their content. So we feed it the model all HTML pages of the reports that were made to our data set, and we asked it to cluster it into certain topics. So then it automatically created topics based on certain keywords appearing on the website's content. As you can see in this example, we got two topics. One topic is about one of these dating scams. We got women, girls, online photos, dating. And the other topic is related to a fake web shops. You got iPhone, laptop, action, and then some Dutch words about shops. So what did we do? We split our data set into two subsets, all reports ending on .eu and all reports made of .be. And we initially created our topics from all the domains ending on .eu. And right here we plotted all the outliers. So the outliers are all the topics or all the pages that could not be sorted into a certain topic. What do we want to check with these? Well, how stable do these topics remain over time? If we train our model on data from the first week, do we see in other weeks completely different topic subsets? How many outliers are there over time? As you can see here for the .eu data set, it kind of gets worse over time, right? I think it's week 32, week 36, you see big outliers. Like 80-70% of pages are suddenly an outlier. But a closer look into these outliers reveal that on week 32, a whole new marketing campaign appeared on our data set. So if we filter these out, it kind of remains stable over time, which is what we could also see if we use the .be data set. So this as well, the initial topics here on week 18 were taken from the .eu data set, but we use a completely different data set to check if these topics remain stable over time as well. And here we see over the course of 20 weeks that we saw the same campaigns coming back. So to conclude our research, we found the majority of scams that people report or that people found suspicious contained pornographic content or were aimed specifically to adults. People mostly report benign content, probably because of newsletters they forgot they signed up for. But we also saw that lots of these reports were quite privacy sensitive. They exposed their privacy information. And finally, we also analyzed as a proof of concept if topic modeling could help as an analysis tool to check how campaigns evolve over time. And with that, I thank you for your attention.
Amazing talk. Do we have more questions from the audience?
study, when you ask them to report malicious, do you ask them why they found malicious? Did the user give you a reason why they suspect this is not legitimate websites?
No, they just forward their emails or forward a link to the email address, and that's all the information we get. We specifically did not look at the content of those emails to kind of protect users for privacy reasons, but we are trying to think of indeed conducting a user study to see why did you actually report it. Of asking the users, why did you actually report this email?
So right now, the study does not have any information correlated with the users, any demographics or any information. Okay, got it. So can you say the difference between the two type of website? I didn't understand what's the difference between the EU and the those two. It's not a common. No, EU is EDU. EU is what kind of website would have EU?
But both domains can be freely registered. You can register .eu domain or .be domain. It was just an arbitrary way of splitting up our data set.
Oh, I see. But why would you see the difference in stability, I guess? What's the traits of the websites in that set versus this set? Change the stability analysis.
Yeah. Well, if we take all domains of .eu, right, we see that it doesn't remain that stable over time because of one single campaign that got introduced in week 32. It was one campaign of one domain name, or kind of domain name that was adding on .eu and hence introduced this kind of plot.
I have one more question. Go ahead.
Was the data access a real-time feed, or was there a delay between when they report allegedly phishing and when you guys get to look at it?
There was a max delay of 15 minutes.
Okay, so it was a real-time feed.
The government pushed their data every 15 minutes to our API services, and then we immediately crawled it.
Okay, thank you.
May I ask one quick question as to what are the awareness campaigns that the government does for people to share this information with the government? As in, what is the incentive? What are the approaches that they're using? Because I think it will be cool if other nations are also using this, because that's the main purpose of,
I mean, as I've explained in the beginning, 44% of Belgians reported to this service, which is quite a high number if you see it across the entire nation, and they're doing quite active campaigns on that. When they first launched, they did quite heavy media campaigns. They did interviews on their news. They published articles. 2 months ago, they even did some advertisements on TV, on all of our major TV stations. This time was specifically for investment advice that they did some media spots, and at the end of every single advertisement, they also link to this email address and to the web pages. So yes, they're actively doing outreach. Indeed.
Yeah. Amazing. Let's thank the speaker one more time for their great talk. Okay. Next up, we have Harel, who's an assistant professor at Ariel University, and they work in various security fields, specifically scam detection, network security, and today they're going to speak about their work in progress paper about deobfuscating academic email addresses. So let's welcome the speaker with a huge round of applause. The floor is yours whenever it's ready.
Thank you, Ananta. My name is Ariel Berger. This is work with my undergrad student from Ariel University, work in progress, deobfuscating academic email addresses and security evaluation of LLMs. So a couple of people already talked about phishing, so I can't use their own entrance and intro. So let's start a little bit differently. So I think it will be very straightforward to ask how many of you regard themselves as a part of the academia? Most of you, yeah. So how many of you think they should conceal or obfuscate their email address at their homepage? Okay, not a lot. And how many of you encounter this kind of things? This one, for example. Okay. So what we'll talk about is, as you can imagine, how people try to obfuscate or conceal their email addresses, and specifically our community, not like the general population, the security community. So there are a couple of news articles about universities and colleges being a target of scammers, like this one, email scammers tailor method to target universities, and this one from 2024, and this one from 2025, which is very nice. A fake IIT professor actually emerged and tried to scam people. So here's another example in which the email address as a source of this email is actually a person, a real person in the academia. And of course, there are a lot of stuff in here, and the one that is signing the email is a fake person, or not an employee or a staff. But the main idea is that the source of this email is actually, can be a professor. So what are we going to do about it? So some people, as I saw in your raising your hands, don't care about it, which is, of course, possible. But as we analyzed and explored this idea of looking at professors' websites, we saw that some people, maybe some a little bit more tech-savvy or geeky ones, try to conceal their emails, their email addresses, as to prevent automatic enumeration of them. However, current LLMs are capable of understanding the context, like the university or the structure of how the university constructs the email addresses, and can infer missing information. So do we do enough against these LLMs, or possibly in the future agents? So our research question is, do email obfuscation techniques still protect against modern LLMs? And the answer is no, nor yes, or no. It depends. So we examined ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude. We took as our sample researchers from top-tier security venues like this one, NDSS, and Usenix from the last 5 years, 2022 and 2025. When we started collecting the information, the data on 2026 was not visible, so we couldn't get from here specifically, but in general. And of course, we looked at the ones that published the most popular ones, which we assumed should be aware of this kind of threat, or maybe they don't care. So our goal is to understand whether existing protection practices that people embed are enough. So here are a couple of examples. This professor embedded the last name format. As a person, of course, everyone can know what is the last name, but can LLM do that? Nice question. In this one, this professor embedded an image. This is not an actual text. This one at the at and dot, in here, which is very simple, and as you will see in the results, still holds against most cases. And I think the most interesting one is one of the interesting cases I'll show you now, is this one. I'm not sure if anyone can decipher what is the email address embedded here, but I'm pretty sure an LLM couldn't, because it's, for a person, it's too complicated. But there are other examples as well. I didn't put it here, but another example was that one of the professors put a CAPTCHA on the email address. And what we got from the LLM is, well, there's a CAPTCHA on this email, but here it is. And you can guess that the LLM couldn't figure out the CAPTCHA, so we lied and didn't mention it. Yeah. So our methodology was to collect the top-tier computer security venues and NDSS and Usenix using DBAP API. we collected the emails of top 100 researchers, and we located their homepage and manually extracted the email addresses, because sometimes you can't count on LLMs to get the email, and it misses the point if you use them to get the emails. So we explored ChatGPT 5, Gemini Flash 2.5, and Sonnet 4.5 as Claude, and our prompts were zero-shot, like give me the email of this professor, and with the HTML of the web page. For each one of them, we repeated this experiment for 5 times, so we got 1,000 queries per model of these professors. So first we analyze the responses based on 3 categories: correct answers, wrong answers, and refusals. Refusals can be because of different aspects. In most cases for this research, it was because they thought that maybe this is something malicious and they don't want to be a tool for that through their guardrails. Also, we explored the 6 categories of the errors of the models, or the sources of these errors. HTML image misinterpretation, like when they see an image and they can't say what the actual email is. @dot, as we saw, the name format, like first name, last name. Protection, if they encountered protected fields inside the HTML, which is a little bit different with image, because there is some kind of ethical aspect that maybe the guardrails encountered. Download required files like vcards and things like that, and all of the other ones. And of course, one might say, well, why should we care about the web page if professors publish papers? And the papers include the emails, of course, the email addresses. So some of the papers are behind paywalls and subscriptions, so they are not open to the LLMs necessarily. And also, emails can be munged, like obfuscated in a way, even in PDF, if the professor is interested in that. So despite having seen many papers, the models failed to generalize when encountering the obfuscation, as we will see soon. So our results are that all 3 LLMs were able to reconstruct the obfuscated emails, but there are differences. Gemini produced the highest number of correct extractions, but also the highest number of errors. ChatGPT showed the best precision, but refused more frequently, and Claude was the more conservative one and refused a lot. As you can see with the zero-shot, Claude is basically refusing every time. And as I mentioned, GPT is a little bit more into answering. With the HTML, most of the emails were extracted, but there were some errors. And overall, we see, if we aggregate both results into one, we see that Claude is, again, the more conservative one. Regarding the different errors, we see that GPT is wrong regarding HTML and source and image things. Gemini is more focused on, is very wrong on @ and dot, and the other ones distribute across the models. So @ and dot is a little bit of defense against this kind of things, like enumerating the emails, but it's not sufficient, as we saw. So our proposed defenses is mediated the contact instead of just giving the emails, and there are some maybe ethical issues as to the person should disclose a lot of information or some of the information. The vcards and PDFs or image-based are nice, we can mesh them together, and also an adaptive defense might be another option as to defend against these kind of things. In the future, we envision that we want to expand to more top-tier venues like CCS and even other ones like ESORX in Europe, asking the actual professors about it, if they'll want to share, of course, and analyzing agents versus LLMs. So my main message is that obfuscation is no longer enough, but what are you going to do about it? So this is our emails, deobfuscated, and thank you.
Great talk. Let's have more questions for this one.
Have you tried any just manual heuristics? Because it seems like there's like 4 or 5 different types of obfuscations they do, seems rather trivial to just manually program that and then compare it against the LLM's performance.
Yeah, we are going to do that in more detailed way. Yeah.
So today's LLMs, they are very powerful, they can do amazing things, but they are struggling with this, what looks like quite simple task. So why?
So, as they are a black box, I'm not sure they'll give us the answer for that, but I think based on the structure of the information they were trained on, in most cases when they see email, they look for a regular pattern. So in some cases, as we saw, when you don't give them the actual HTML and focus them on the structure of the specific web page, they'll fail to generalize the @dot thingies. But I'm pretty sure that as time progresses, things will be a little bit different in means of trying to defend our privacy or private information. Thank you.
Hello, thank you for the talk. During the first half of the talk, I had in my head this question, but what about papers? And then you hinted to it. What are things that we could do in papers to obfuscate email addresses? I'm less afraid of scams, but I really hate this academic spam that I get all the time. I would like to do something against that. And I guess they get the emails from the paper. So is there something that we can do to... I still want people who are interested in my research to be able to contact me. So I think it's very important that we put email addresses in our papers, but I don't want people to just scan over all papers and get email addresses.
So first of all, a conference is a great opportunity to connect with people. So I think even without emails, it's pretty straightforward. But I do think that human-like ways that like a human will be able to decipher it quickly and an LLM will be more complicated for it to decipher. This is the way I think we should encounter this problem. And as we saw, there are some things we can do. I think the idea of like putting a form is a little bit too much because you need, as a professor or an academic, you need to read through and analyze what these people disclosed and if it's enough for you to contact with them. So I think it will be a little bit of adapting to the new intelligence that will come forth in the next few years as well. But for now, and dot is nice. If you put it in an image, it will be more complicated because it will need to have 2 steps as to decipher what your email is.
Okay, thank you.
I believe we don't have time for the last question. Maybe you can ask the speaker later. But thanks again. Let's thank the speaker again for the great talk. Okay, and next up we have Lucas, who is actually a master's student at Oregon State University, and he's here to speak about spurious credentials in breach compilations. Let's welcome the speaker.
All right, hello everyone. Thanks for coming to my talk. Today I'll be talking about our paper, Spurious Credentials in Breach Compilations. So, as a bit of quick background, how many people here have been in a data breach before? Okay, quite a few of you. So, if there are credentials within that data breach, it'll probably be sold off to hackers at some point, unfortunately, and then eventually compiled into these huge breach compilations of credentials The ones that we're focusing on in this paper are 4IQ and COMB, which together have billions upon billions of plain text credentials in the format of email and password. These are super useful for people researching password user behavior because they give a unique access that you normally can't get by asking people what their passwords are. As such, these have been used in a large body of research, some of them including things like password guessing models. In this paper, we check a dozen or so papers that have used 4IQ and COMB, and they normally spot check true positives to make sure that there's real credentials within the data sets, and they remove invalid credentials, but this misses potential false positives, credentials that look real but ultimately aren't. Some of the prior cleaning methods used in these papers are things like taking out credentials with non-ASCII characters, putting password length requirements, stopping password hex substrings that are only at a certain length to prevent passwords that look like they're still in hex form, taking out invalid emails, and finding emails that have an enormous amount of passwords that no normal user would be able to have. So, after all of these data filtering methods are applied, what do we think the most popular 6-character prefix of all the passwords in the data set might be? Maybe something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the first 6 characters of passwords. Wrong. It is FBobH_, which doesn't make sense. That shouldn't be there. So obviously we're missing something. In this paper, we're targeting what we define as spurious credentials. These include invalid credentials because those still need to be taken out of the data set, and there is a ton of bad data within here. However, we also want to target automated outliers. These are things that are large-scale outliers that are still technically real individuals. They look real. They could be created by a user, but by the nature of the trends within the data set, it's obvious that they're bot-generated or shouldn't be considered for normal user behavior. This leads us to our core research questions. How can we identify these spurious credentials to get more accurate data? This is challenging because normally when we're talking about credential data, we would use these breaches as ground truth, but we're trying to verify how trustworthy these are, so we have to go within trends inside of these breaches instead of just comparing them to known ground truth instead. And then when we remove all of them, how much of these data sets are made of spurious credentials that may have bypassed previous filters and prior work? This brings us to our new methods: syntactic filtering, password outliers, email outliers, and FBobH_. So, first off, syntactic filtering. These are pretty straightforward. It's just deduplicating breaches that may not have already been deduplicated, a TLD check with the IANA recognized TLDs to remove invalid emails. This removes a surprising amount of data from the data set that just never was invalid email or valid emails in the first place. And then providing email length requirements, making sure that the length of the email is between 6 and 254. And we found 6 to be the smallest possible realistic email in use. 255 is the max length by the RFC for an email, and this removes some edge cases of super long and super short emails. Then, moving on to password outliers, this is where it becomes pretty difficult because we need to identify passwords that show a massive drop between their use as a password and their use as a prefix. So, for example, if we see a highly random 15-character string that occurs 60,000 times as its own password, but no other passwords start with that random 15-character string, it essentially means that 60,000 people out there chose this password, and then there is zero variation on it in the wild. This obviously is not what normal humans would do, so we need to identify things that have this strange pattern and remove them from the data set, and this actually does identify a lot of strange data within that we then subsequently remove. Similarly, we study the password follow-on distribution, which takes a prefix and then identifies how many of the immediate next follow-on characters exist within the dataset. So an example here is the password 12345. You may expect the following character to be 6 in most, if not all, cases. So if we're analyzing the dataset and we see that, hey, it goes 12345J like 60% of the time, something's not right there. and we need to highlight that as a suspicious credential and manually review it. We highlight them as suspicious compared to a global baseline of the data set. This also manages to take out a lot of extra spurious credentials in both 4IQ and COMB. Then there's email outliers. Sequential usernames is similar to the emails that use a lot of passwords. They just increment the username of the email to an absurd degree, which means it's either bot generated or an incredibly ambitious user, either of which we shouldn't study as normal user behavior. And it should be noted that the domain and password are the same in all of these, so it's not like the username that happens to coincide. Then we find email chains. These are groups of credentials that use a following set of domains within the email that have the same username, same password, and are grouped up together over and over and over again throughout the data set. Now, this is a good time to stop and really consider why these are bad, because if you take this at scale, you can see that there's an issue here. But if you were to zoom in and just see that 5 set of usernames, you may be like, hey, this person is obviously reusing their password. This is a problem. We need to start developing more things to stop password reuse. Obviously, that is still a problem, but just based off of this view, it can give a misconception because they seem like real user passwords. Next up, we want to look at an individual case study and dive a bit deeper into why we want to remove it and some of the things that it shows us about credential manipulation within the data set. That is the prefix fbob_h_, usually followed by 4 characters in about 99.8% of the time. This is a very interesting occurrence within both 4IQ and COMB. There's 14.2 million occurrences in 4IQ, 14.3 million in COMB, and it is so interesting because the following 4 characters of this prefix are uniformly distributed across alphabetic, numerical, and symbol characters, except for 9. 9 doesn't appear at all for some reason. But we independently verified on Have I Been Pwned that these all come from MySpace. So we can take this really strange set of passwords and kind of fingerprint what data set they are in. And we see that even though they come from the same breach, COMB actually has more credentials than 4IQ. So we look into this. We find out that there's about 30,000 extra fbob_h_ credentials in COMB. And of those, a vast majority exhibit credential manipulation, meaning that someone has taken the original data set that they got from this and added to it in a way that we especially know isn't normal user behavior, because normal users wouldn't find that pattern by themselves at such a scale. This brings us to the removals from the entire data set. The original removals from COMB were 152.8 million credentials. We removed an additional 175.3. In 4IQ, there was an original 40.9 million. We removed an additional 41.6 million. This means that all prior work has, at minimum, a 5.4% rate of spurious credentials within the data, on 4IQ, a 2.9%. This is at minimum because the previous work cleaning that we listed is an aggregate. It's not consistent against all previous work. And also, our filters are pretty conservative to stop from removing as much real data as possible. This is very worrying because these unique passwords that could be seen as user passwords are used in previous work and could alter the results substantially. As such, we hope that in the future, when working with these data sets, we learn to trust that they are not actually exactly ground truth data. They may come from nefarious sources and be altered. And as such, we hope that people will use our open source scripting in order to clean them further before using them for their research. Thank you.
Thank you for the great talk. Do we have questions for the speaker?
What about password managers? Because nowadays lots of people use password managers. Some of the password could be generated by managers.
Yes, that's a good point. Password managers wouldn't exhibit the same follow-on ratio rate that we see because they should be kind of random and distributed, so we won't see that grouping of the specific passwords together. If we did, that would be a finding on its own of they're not random enough and we'll come across the same thing. But password managers generally we wouldn't see fit into these patterns that we note in the filters and would still be able to be considered as, I guess, normal user passwords, or then based on the randomness of them categorized as password manager passwords.
So there's still password research, but there were quite a bit of password research in terms of guessability. Do you have a sense of how does your work impact? If I go back, look at their data set used, evaluate guessability, would there be an impact?
Yeah, we don't have too much analysis in terms of previous works, data sets, and how it may affect results. We do know that, like in terms of email chains, you may see that all of these usernames have repeated passwords. And in password guessing models, they may be able to take that into account and provide different methods that base off of these parts of the data set. So we anticipate that because there are such strong sort of patterns that we see with this, it could definitely have a big impact on password guessing models.
One more question at the end.
Hi, really interesting talk. So you removed a huge number of passwords. Do you have any idea what kind of false positive rate you might have, or if there's even any way to kind of measure that?
Yeah, so in a majority of the filters, there is a pretty low false positive rate. I would say the main cases that could potentially have it is follow-on ratio. In instances like target 123, for example, there are some follow-on occurrences. So we know that this is a natural password that is used by some people. However, we don't eliminate the follow-on occurrences. We just take target 123. And because of the disparity between them, we know that this is not actually an incredibly common password for normal users. And as such, the vast majority of the occurrences are bot generated for this.
All right, thank you.
All right. That's it for this talk, and let's thank the speaker one more time. And for the last talk, let's all welcome Tanya, who did this work on uncovering global disparities in third-party advertising and tracking when she was a master's student. Okay, let's welcome the speaker one more time.
Hi, thanks for the introduction. So let's talk about third-party ad and tracking and how they vary across the world. In this project, we asked 3 main research questions related to web browsing. The first one is, how does browser choice affect third-party ad and tracking? The second question is, how does the user's perceived location affect the website's ad and tracking behavior? And the final question is, does the website's hosting jurisdiction impact ad and tracking behavior at all? So to briefly go into the methodology, and we will first introduce our framework, which we use to answer research questions. Our framework consists of 3 parts. The first part is deciding our measurement variables, like what kind of browsers and websites we want to crawl. The second part is actually doing the crawl and collecting data. And the third part is processing our data set that we've collected and drawing analysis from it. So first, we determine the variables for study. We choose 3 popular browsers, Chrome, Edge, and Firefox, as well as Brave because of its focus on privacy. And we choose 7 vantage points across 3 continents, which gives us a very diverse regulatory context across all the vantage points. And lastly, we choose the websites, the website data set that we want to use for a crawl. So here we choose the top 1,000 websites from the Tranco list, and we also augment it with regional websites from our vantage points if they don't already exist in them, just to maintain diversity. This gives us a list of 1,005 websites, and we crawl these websites from all 7 vantage points in dedicated virtual machines, doing each visit in like an isolated environment in a container, just to make sure that we don't carry any state ahead. And lastly, we also do DNS queries based on every web request that's recorded, and we use these DNS queries later to do like geo-IP location. One thing that's inevitable when we do web crawls, as even covered by previous presentation, is the presence of cookie banners, and in some cases, they don't actually get you to the content themselves. So in this case, we crawl each website in 2 states. The first is the no interaction state, where we just record all the requests but do not interact with the web page at all. And the second mode is where we just click the accept all cookies button or its equivalent. And the reason that we do this is because we want to like get the upper bound on the ad and tracking activity, and it's also shown by prior work that it seems to be in line with general user behavior. Once we collect, visit the websites, we also find that we end up recording a lot of CAPTCHA pages or restricted pages, or even in some case like unavailable pages or network issues. And we need to like sort we need to remove these from our data set, as we are comparing between different regions and different browsers, and if there's inconsistent behavior, we might actually see it taint our results. It seems to be the trend in this conference, so we are going to use LLMs to do something. But in this case, it was just a quick hack to have a model that could understand prompts and classify the data for us. So across our study, we generate about 500,000 images, and doing that, especially during a degree, is not possible. So we annotate a small sample set of screenshots manually and classify them if it's a valid page or if it has a CAPTCHA or some other invalid characteristics. And then we feed the same sample set into 5 different LLM models, which can interact with images, and we find that Llama 4 actually does pretty well at this task. And we also find that others kind of have some biases, but I won't get into that. As we crawl web pages, we do them repeatedly just to make sure that we classify all the web requests that it records, and if a website displays this invalid characteristic 5 times out of 10, we kind of remove that website from consideration completely. So we actually lose a significant portion of our data set, about 25%, and we end up with around 700 websites to analyze. The last part that we want to classify from all the web requests that we collect while we crawl the websites is what part of these web requests are actually associated with third-party ad and tracking, and what are just other requests. And we do this using like block lists that are used for DNS-based block lists, or like extensions such as AdGuard or Pi-hole. And we use this collection, a bunch of them actually, to classify if a web request is from a third-party ad and tracking source or if it's not. And while doing the analysis, we only focus on the apex domains, which is like the red part of the URLs, and not the remaining, because we want to group together entities and not double count or add noise to our analysis. To briefly go into the results, for the first research question, the effect of web browsers, we have a chart here that shows the total number of apex domains of different types on the four browsers across our entire crawl. And the solid bar is from a vantage point in Ohio, and the striped one is in France. And what we find is that we show the data for France, but in general, privacy-focused browsers like Brave load fewer third-party add-on tracking. However, the difference is much less pronounced in the European sites, in this case France, but the trend is similar in Germany and Ireland as well. Next thing that we analyze is cookie banner prevalence. We find that in this chart, the circle on the inner side shows us the prevalence of the cookie banners across the entire website data set. And we find that in EU, the cookie banner prevalence is much higher than in the rest of the vantage points. And it shows that websites do discriminate where the user is from. And secondly, an observation to make is that most add-on tracking happens from bannered sites in EU, whereas in non-EU vantage points, we find that most add-on tracking is actually loaded from sites that do not have cookie banners. In the previous slide, we looked at like the overall picture, but if you see the average add-on tracking domains across all vantage points for one browser, in case Chrome, in 3 modes, the first blue bar is the no cookie banner interaction state. The second is the accept all state, where we accept the cookie banner, and the third one is sites without detectable banners at all. What we find is in the European vantage points, there is a low average when we don't accept the cookie banners, and immediately as we accept the cookie banners, we find a sharp increase. In non-EU vantage points, we find that the base is already significantly higher than EU, and when we do accept cookie banners button, we find that it just increases a bit. And an observation is that for sites that do not have cookie banners at all, the average add-on tracking is significantly lesser in EU and much higher in non-EU regions. From this, we can see that consent, like the cookie banner consent, acts like a gatekeeper, and once like the user accepts it, most of the protections that even if the regulation provide kind of goes away. Second part of a study deals with studying what proportion of third-party add-on tracking requests stay in the region or originate from their own region. So in this case, we consider all EU countries the same region and all states in the US the same region. And what we find is that in US and EU, most of the add-on tracking requests actually originate from their own region, whereas in other vantage points like Singapore, Canada, and India, this percentage is drastically low. And lastly, we want to answer a question if websites apply uniform add-on tracking based on the hosting location at all, or does the variation just come from where the user is located? In this chart, we see we group users by EU users and non-EU users, and we map the cookie banner prevalence to the add-on tracking contribution from those bannered sites. What we see is that EU users do see more banners regardless of where the site is hosted. This is like in line with what we saw before, and the high add-on tracking contribution in EU, there is high add-on tracking contribution from EU from all sites regardless of where they're located. Again, in line with our previous results. The websites hosted outside of the EU actually show fewer banners to non-EU users. However, we find that even the websites that are not hosted in EU show reasonably more banners to EU users. Something that's interesting to note is that websites that are hosted in China do not show any variation at all based on where the users are. We hypothesize this is because they are following their own domestic privacy law, which mandates consent, and they just apply it uniformly. From this, we kind of get a sense that hosting jurisdiction does not matter as much as the user location does, and consent banners and the amount of ad tracking varies more on where the user is located. So there are some limitations to our work, such as we focus only on landing pages, no subpages, no logins. And a classification system uses DNS-based block lists, which act at a domain level, which comes with sad challenges, like we cannot detect CNAME cloaking techniques. And we only measure the exposure, and we don't measure like the volume or the nature of data exchanged. And to do this experiment, we collect terabytes of data on cloud machines, so the cost of scaling up is significant and actually stopped us from making this a bigger study. So to summarize, the browser effectiveness varies by location and context of third-party ad tracking, with the greatest impact in permissive regulatory regions. Websites do discriminate on users and adapt to where the user is located. And lastly, hosting jurisdiction does not seem to matter as much as the website's location. Thank you. Thank you to you all. Thank you to my collaborators, and I'll take questions. Yeah.
Do we have any questions for Tanya? Yes.
So in one of the slides, if I recall correctly, you showed that even with the privacy preserving browsers like Brave, there was still a lot of tracking.
Yeah.
Do you know why that is the case?
So the thing is, we did the study in the default mode of the browser, and my collaborator actually found that Brave has a lot of settings that you can enable further to make it more aggressive in blocking ads and tracking, and that actually makes a huge impact. So in this study, we did not focus on it, but in the baseline, Brave still seems to have a lot of ads and tracking load. I mean, the way that it works is it's a cat and mouse game, so as we keep blocking domains and getting them added to block lists, more just keep popping up.
It's the relative difference between the browsers that I'm worried about. I think if I recall the difference, it's the relative difference with the other browsers that I'm worried about. I think the number of trackers that should have been blocked should ideally be more than other browsers.
Yeah, it was low. The trends were similar. It's just because it's added across the entire data set, it's a little bit hard to see. But Brave did do significantly better in all regions and all, across all vantage points. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, I have two questions. Firstly, is third party for you any website, any Apex domain that is different from the original or the originating domain? Because from past research I've seen that, let's say Disney was sharing data with ESPN, but it turns out that they're both related to each other and they're coming from the same enterprise.
Right. So for this study, to keep it simple, because we couldn't find a comprehensive way to actually link two entities together, we kept it simple and we just used if a domain is not matching with the pay level, like the main website domain, we consider it a third party. But that's only because if we tried to group them, which we did, there were always loopholes. Like we tried to use whois, but then websites have registered in like a very varied ways, and it's hard to group them together. But yeah, that's one of the drawbacks of this kind of classification.
Cool. And for my second question, have you observed that if there are two different targets for a domain and perhaps they're receiving the same identifier for tracking purposes, that way two different entities can basically correlate and join hands together to track users?
Right. This usually happens using cookies, and that's why we kind of touch on how cookie banners pop up. But there is a whole work of study in that that studies how cookies and entities interlink with each other. But it's a little bit cut off from this work. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Florian, I'm sorry, I don't think we have time for the last question, but given that we have a break, maybe you can chat more with the speaker. With that, let's applaud for Tanya one more time and thank the speaker.